What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets-Haber, the day after the belated birthday boy, I guess. We're going to be going through today's massive Wednesday slate. Had a really good Tuesday slate, but really frustrating. Like not frustrating, just keep missing the play in the big one and don't have the right mix exactly. Like, I barely played Trey Lyles, and he was in my best. I finished 11th or 12th in the $600 for 100K for first. And I would have won it easily with basically most other guys I would have selected, especially Aaron Gordon. I would have won it by 1,000,000 points. And I did play some Aaron Gordon. He was in one of my other ones. But it just, a little frustrating. And then we didn't get the Barton news till late. So I did I gambled with Lyles early, and it just happened to be that one tournament. I actually played in my one I almost won the 100 on. I played Isaiah Stewart at 0.25% ownership, and he 6.5x or whatever, which was nice. But I feel like I'm on the right track. I haven't lost in a while. I'm ready to take down the big one though tonight. We've got the giant tournament on DraftKings, and then there's the big, there's the $44 with you can whatever 100K for first. So that means you can enter 1,000,000 times. I've actually done really well with those in the past, but I'm not going to script on the day where there's too much late swapping, and I'm going to be focused on DraftKings. But it's going to be a big day for me. So hopefully we can take something down. Sheets, how are you doing? How'd you do last night? And how was the birthday and everything?
Birthday was good. NBA was okay. I had one lineup of like 315. That was made me a little bit of money, and then I min cashed in the 600, I guess it was last night, with a couple of X's in there. But yeah, and I did what I said I was going to do. I played some. I wish I did well on the lineups where I played the Morant,
Morant Curry.
Morant Curry, but those weren't the lineups that I smashed the other parts of it. But yeah, that's the way it goes.
That's the way it goes, and it's funny because that actually does. Just I don't want to interrupt you, but I do want to talk more about lineup construction and how things are forced. And because of Dinwiddie being such chalk, there was like no way you could play Durant and you could play Steph and Murray and Ja together. That also means you have to forgo Jokic. So it seemed like an impossible thing to do. But that's why I forced it into my big one, was to have the Dinwiddie, Durant, because they're all in the same position, obviously. Sorry, Morant and Steph. But anyway, sorry, go ahead, Shoots.
Oh, that's all right. So we got, and I haven't played FanDuel because you know what I'm doing. I really encourage you to do this. I've been grinding these sportsbook bonuses. I mean, I literally they gave like, I'll just throw a couple out there, but like FanDuel, I put in like 5,000. They gave me 3,000 basically free money.
Wow.
And then I played and then Caesars in New York, 3,000 to get 3,000, and then this other one 250 to get 250. So may as well. So I played SportsBet almost at random over there. Didn't do well on the Bama pick by Jack, but other ones were okay. So I've been kind of focusing on that on FanDuel to get that set up, and I do have a free play on DraftKings, which I have to figure out what to do. So I've been listen. One of the things I never did in poker was take advantage of all that stuff, And as long as they're going to give the free money away for the New York for the first time at least, I have no problem doing it. So I'm taking advantage of that. So I haven't played FanDuel in a few days, but I'm going to be focused on DraftKings as well tonight. I'm going to probably take a shot at that 2022 as well, and we will see. I will be more than happy to accept second place.
I honestly would be happy to take second place even in this one. This is a really, really big tournament. But it's awesome with the sportsbook, and I do think it's something that we need to start. I can't do it obviously here. I hope the same thing applies when they.
Oh, it will.
And I'm sure it will. So we want to make sure to be all over that, and it's it's something that keeps happening with even the other sites and everything like that I've really tried to do a better job taking advantage of than I did when I first started playing DFS. The bonuses and bugging your reps at the companies and everything like that to try to get they will give you tickets and everything, because we all know the rake is pretty high and these companies are making a lot of money. So they tend to be flexible for the players' benefit anyway. All right, well, let's jump into today's slate and let's go game by game. We'll pull up your screen here. And I think it's actually an interesting slate. We've got a lot of news, obviously, that is inevitably going to happen. So I'm going to say the same thing I always say. You do want in general to try. And look, last night was a great example. I mean, Aaron Gordon doesn't have to go nuts. We know he has a million duds in his life, but he went nuts last night, and Barton not being there certainly helped him out. So there is always late news, even on the small slate. So we're probably going to get some late news. We have everything sort of flows though tonight. We have the 6 o'clock, then the 7 o'clocks, 5:30 game. Then there's a break between 7:30 and 8:30. Sorry, I keep using West Coast and East Coast. But just keep that in mind. It is going to be tough though, because we're going to have a very stackable game right off the bat. Sheets, I would love to know, have your lineups updated to have Wendell Carter? Have your projections lined up to have Wendell Carter and Mo Bamba out?
No. I did these a long time ago.
Okay.
I don't know. I have I don't really have much going on in the Orlando. So I have Wendell Carter in and Bamba in. So I'm behind as far as that goes.
Yeah, so that's going to be some of the biggest things on the slate that we have so far. You'd imagine that Okiki and probably a guy who's not even projecting right now, Robin Lopez, will start and play a ton of minutes.
Yep.
He always does, and it's his former team, and he's 4K. So I in order of interest, Cole Anthony is number one for me still on Orlando. I love Anthony here. I actually think Wagner is strongly in play with the other two out. I'm not going to go to the Terrence Ross thing. I'm not going to go to Gary Harris, even though other people are going to, and it's fine. It's just a big slate. I don't like playing guys like Gary Harris. But I will play Okiki some, and I will definitely play Lopez, assuming that he does start, because they've given him a ton of minutes in those situations where he does start, and he's actually played really well. So I like all those guys. And then Dinwiddie is the main play on the slate. It's going to be a tough fade if you do want to fade him. Last night being a great example. It is a back-to-back, but it's Orlando also, so it sort of evens out a little bit. Maybe his minutes get cut down a tiny bit on the back-to-back. Maybe you get a little more netto, but I don't think you're going to want to use that kind of value on this slate. Kispert is another one who might show up for people, but I don't know if I want to do that on this slate. And then I think people might be soured on Kuzma because he puts up 30 and a quarter, and then he'll have like 3/4 to 0. That's what he does. That's who Kyle Kuzma is as a basketball player. He is absolutely inconsistent. He's been on an absolute tear lately. It's a good matchup. So I like Kuzma too. But I would say Dinwiddie and Cole Anthony is as the massive priorities. And then I want to see who's starting, but assuming they are, I like Lopez and Okiki. Anything for you?
Yeah, I'm not doing Dinwiddie off of a back-to-back of an overtime game. It's just I'm just not going to do it. But certainly not going to criticize the play. Certainly going to project.
I don't think it was an overtime game, was it?
Sure was.
How did he only play 30? No, What did I have mistaken then about that? Because nobody played minutes in the overtime.
I don't know how that happened, but I guess he only played 34 minutes. I guess it's not like he played 40 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, that's sort of shocking anyway.
Kind of off brand for me to play something like that. So
I missed the overtime. I was out doing a class, but that's weird because I looked at the minutes and nobody played more than 35 minutes, which basically seems impossible for an overtime. And I'm looking here on DraftKings and it says end of the fourth quarter.
Am I wrong?
Say overtime here.
Okay, could be right.
All right, I'll double check it, but I
don't know. We're gonna double check this now because I could have sworn that I noticed that last night. Hold on a minute.
There was a lot of scoring in the game.
How do we know? How do I not know? I mean, how do we honestly not know?
I thought I did know.
I thought that I did too. So
now I'm not sure anymore.
We're gonna figure this out right now.
I'll look it up right now.
Well, yeah, I guess you're right. I could have sworn it was overtime, but what do I know? Yep, not overtime.
Yeah, and then go ahead.
So I'm a little less sour on the Dinwiddie play. Now it's just because it's a back-to-back. So that I won't not play it just because it's a back-to-back. If it was an overtime, I definitely wouldn't play it. So given the fact that the Orlando guys are also so good here, it just makes the stack just so appealing that I'll probably forgive the back-to-back portion. I like Okiki. Without even seeing the projections, I know I'm going to like Okiki and Lopez. And I agree with you. I like Cole Anthony. So you could start with those three with a Dinwiddie run back, and then you could be on your way if you don't mind playing the early game. That I think that's definitely one build that people are going to do, which certainly makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like and the thing is Dinwiddie. I mean, just if you do want to fade Dinwiddie, you can do it because he's going to be 75% owned or higher. I don't think it's even a question on DraftKings that there's basically no. Look, a lot of things could happen, so I don't want to say that, but it's going to be very, very tough for people to fade a guy who's didn't even have like his best game last night and put up 46 and he's 6K. I mean, I think he's the closest thing. He's as close to a lock as things get for me, but I do understand the back-to-back concerns. It is at home and it's against Orlando, so I'm evening it out.
Well, I got a better play. We'll come later.
You got a better one? Okay.
I got a better play.
Okay. Boston and Indy. What do you got?
They got a better play. Boston and Indy. This is not the game where I have a better play. There are plays that are okay in this game, like Schroeder. Schroeder's only 4,800.
Schroeder is only 4,800.
He's projected to be about 5.5x. That seems fair enough.
Yep.
Tatum, I guess, but there's just better plays, I think. At that price, I think. Maybe not that exact price, actually, but I just much could prefer play like Dejante Murray, for example, at 9,700. In any case, Tatum would be the next guy on Boston, besides Schroeder, but not too thrilled overall. And then on the Indiana side, yeah. So again, we still have to see if Brogdon is in or out. He's still questionable. Achilles is tough, and you got LeVert. Not sure if he's back. I don't know about that. So again, we're on the waiting game for Indianapolis as usual, or Indiana as usual. But I still think that what's his name is Sabonis is fair enough. 10K is getting that price tag that nobody wants to play. And so I wouldn't mind a very, very low owned Sabonis in a large field. I wouldn't mind that, but certainly not a priority. And as usual, this type of game just doesn't intrigue me all that much.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to force in one of the three Boston guys in most of my lineups.
Which guys?
Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Dennis Schroeder. Schroeder would be the least interesting. But Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, I mean, you could literally just look at their game logs. You could see basically one of them puts up 55 plus every night.
Okay, fair enough.
And their prices are reasonable. Jason Tatum just put up 58 against these guys. He's put up 58 in back-to-back games. I'm sorry, Jaylen Brown. He's put up 58 in back-to-back games. He had 76 a couple games before that. This game should be fairly close. I still don't believe in Indiana's defense. And Boston is sort of in desperation mode, so you should get all the minutes you can handle from these guys. I do think one or two of those games may have been in overtime. So just, take it with a grain of salt. But I do think there's upside for them. And I don't know that I'm going to actually end up doing that. That is just a current plan that I'm sort of working through because the price is right on both of them. And they can both get that 60 and that 9K price tag. It seems very, very reasonable to me with what I'm going to expect by the end of the day is going to be a lot of value. Charlotte, Philadelphia. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Lamello, Embiid. Now, again, you've pointed out quite accurately that Lamello has not really been a great ceiling performer of late. But he is down to 8,700 now. Mm-hmm. So, you look at his game logs, there's literally not a single game that you'd want. Yeah. At 8,700. But fair enough. So I still think it's okay. And Embiid on the other side, as usual, it's like a broken record. Oh, look at this. Wait, Denver doesn't play tonight, but Embiid plays? That's interesting. Oh, Embiid always plays when Jokic plays, except for tonight.
I know, it's bizarre.
Wow, he has the top range all to himself tonight. That's going to be interesting.
Yep.
And I happen to think he's a good play. So I also think he's going to be owned this time. But so I like Embiid and I like Lamello a little bit. And then the value guy I like from Charlotte is Martin. So I like that a little bit. So
yeah,
that's my initial look at that.
My guess is by the time the slate starts, guys like Martin are just going to be completely irrelevant.
Probably.
He doesn't put up more than 20 when he even plays minutes, and they've got everybody healthy. So it's kind of hard to justify playing a guy who, he had a couple games. The last times I don't think he's had a game over 21 this whole season where they had everybody healthy.
Okay.
And that's what I would be concerned about. Now, if anybody's out, obviously it opens things up for him. Right. But he doesn't have to play 28 minutes. He could play 12 minutes today. There's no lock on those minutes. Everybody on Charlotte sort of looks okay. But that's just how it is. But they're all healthy, and Lamello is fine. Gordon Hayward, reasonable price. Terry Rozier has been really good. I like Bridges a lot, but I don't think I'm going to play any of them tonight, to be honest with you. Maybe I will because I'm going to play Embiid. I do think Embiid is the priority spend up on the slate. Yeah, I don't think there's really anybody all that close. I think it's interesting with Maxey coming back. He's projecting really well, but I'm a little bit skeptical about him getting as many minutes as they're projecting him for. And I want to see what happens with Seth Curry. If Seth Curry is out again, I will play Tobias Harris or Embiid in most of my lineups. I'll do something like that. But I'll mix in Maxey, of course, as well. But I don't know that as of right now that I really want to speculate without knowing about Curry. I mean, we saw Embiid completely smash the other night, but I mean, the problem is then they end up blowing somebody out. But I think this should be a pretty good game. Embiid doesn't have to do much to get there. I think he's pretty clearly the best spend up on the slate at first glance, anyway. And if you want to run it back, I mentioned all those Charlotte guys are viable. I guess for favorites, maybe you would say like Melo, because I mean he's now got shooting guard eligibility too and point guard strong. But I guess Gordon Hayward is probably the most, like, I don't want to say safest, but the most reasonable price wise, and does have the forward eligibility. But I don't know that I don't know. My Bridges is fine on a smaller slate. I'd be very into stacking this game. I just think it's a big slate and that there's other really good plays out there. So I don't find myself like a need to play here, but I do think everybody is viable. I just am finding myself siding mostly with just Embiid at the moment, assuming everybody's playing for Philly. Miami, Atlanta. This should be an interesting game. I think you have the other obvious chalk that you have to play in this one too. So you can Okongwu.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I think he's the better play than.
Well, they're not. I mean, what's the better play? Like.
Oh, then Lopez. I was going to say, but you could play him at power forward.
Yeah, you can play him power forward.
Yeah, I mean, this is well. I mean, I would make sure he started. I don't imagine why he wouldn't start over Yang, but I would make sure he started. But he's going to be, he's probably going to be a priority for me, presuming he starts. Now, again, it's no bargain playing Miami at any position, and it's possible that he has to deal with a combination of Omar and Tucker or whatever. But 3,900 starting, then we talk about this. They like him in general, and I think it's a really, really strong play. So on the what I have on the Miami side, on the Miami side, I like the other thing on Atlanta, I like Trey, by the way. Now again, none of this is great against Miami. Like nothing's ever great against Miami, but I do like Trey and I do like Okongwu. And then on the other side, I think Lowry's okay, and I like the other Martin, the Caleb. So that's what I like in this.
Yeah, I feel like playing Trey on this slate. Like, look, I'm not saying that there won't be a lineup that he sneaks into. It certainly won't be any of my priority lineups. It just doesn't make any sense. It's the worst matchup possible, basically, for him.
Yeah.
And even though Reddish is not going to play, you have Gallinari. You probably have Hunter coming back. DeLon Wright's going to get minutes. Herter's there. He's going to have the ball in his hands a ton. Don't get me wrong. But Capella being out actually hurts him, doesn't help him. I just can't find a reason to play him here. I feel like if you play Trey here, you're just playing him every night, or you're playing the ownership game. It's not like what Steph had last night. There's narrative motivation. There's a team that plays fast in Memphis. Like there was a logic to playing Steph last night. Right. I can't find any logical reason to play Trey tonight. But it doesn't mean that he won't have a big game. You're going to get a 0% owned guy who's has like the second highest usage or the highest usage in the NBA.
Right.
So I think it's on that basis it's viable. And it's, if you do it though, there are good. I think Kyle Lowry is completely reasonable. I think that Caleb Martin is better than Cody Martin today because I feel more sure about his minutes than I do about Cody's. And we actually see ceiling games in this environment for him. He put up 38, and 32 last week. So I would play Caleb over Cody. But Okongwu was the main play in this game for me. I don't think I'm going to go back to PJ Tucker. It's a great matchup for everybody on Miami. That's why I give Lowry and then the boost. And it wouldn't surprise me if you got like a super high end game from either Hero or Robinson,
right.
Like 50 plus. I mean, because they could make like 8 threes against this Atlanta team with how poor their defense has been, and their defense ain't getting better without Capella. So I do have interest in Miami. I think I would rank Lowry a little bit ahead of Hero, but it's really close though. And I think that they're being a little bit underprojected and maybe a little under-owned today. So I like both those guys. And then Caleb Martin would be my other one. But Okongwu is pretty much all of my current Atlanta interest. After that, it would probably be Collins or Herter, maybe even Bogdanovich, probably. Actually, it depends on what they did with guys. If you see Gallinari sneak into the starting lineup, he's definitely in play at 4K. But doesn't mean he's necessarily going to play 30 minutes, but giving him the chance is probably worth taking a shot if they do start him instead of, with Reddish out, but I don't think they would. I really don't, but just throwing that out there. All right, Dallas against your Knicks. I'm curious of your take on this one.
So first of all, they love Luka in New York. I actually went to a game once a few years ago when Dallas came to town. It was actually the game. So Dallas came to New York, and literally that night after the game, they traded like Dennis Smith Jr., DeAndre Jordan, Kristaps Porzingis. Like everybody just got traded after that game. And they didn't even leave town. You know what I mean? They switch in locker rooms, whatever. And there's like thousands of people that come to watch Luka in New York. Like everybody from his part of the world or whatever it is, they all just freaking flock to this. So I do actually like Luka here. I think he could have a good game. And on the other side, I like Randall. I just like a nice, easy, not easy, but because nobody's that cheap, but easy to at least conceptualize. The best player for Dallas and the best player in New York. So I do like that. Fortunately, they did not price. They priced up the lock. I don't have to play him, Kleber. So I don't have to play Kleber at 5,200 or something like that. And the rest of it, I really don't have all too much interest in.
Yeah, I think Luka is interesting, and he's the guy, the low-owned play that I might be more interested in Trey. Like, sure. He hasn't been playing, especially he hasn't had a good season at all. And he hasn't played well lately. And you look last time out, and I know that everything, he had all the rebounds and assists, but that's part of the game. He was 8 for 23 from the floor, and he had 64 fantasy points. That's appealing to me. So Luka and Trey are the low-owned pay-ups that I think could end up getting you to that 70 mark that you might want. And what you're saying about playing in Madison Square Garden and they like him there and everything, and he only gets to go once a year, that feels like a spot where you might want to attack it. So I kind of like that idea. It gives me a little bit better of an excuse for that one than I do for Trey. But then again, with Trey, it always makes me nervous to say he's a bad play, because he could just go out and have one of those crazy games anytime. Against anyone, by the way. On the Knicks side, I agree that Randall's price stands out, but he never, ever, ever produces anymore.
No, it's weird, right?
He took 7 shots in the last game. Like, what was happening? I honestly don't get it. Like, and he got rebounds. I do think guys like Kemba being on the team, who's supposed to be back tonight, have hurt him. Quickly, who's a trigger first. They're not running their offense through him as much. The assists are down from last year, although still not terrible. But he's really not even shooting the ball that much. And then he's not shooting. He's shooting. Right. He's also shooting terribly. So, but I like the matchup with Dallas. I like his price. I could see a little Luka Randall. And because I like the matchup, although with Taj Gibson probably back tonight. Now, if Taj Gibson's out again, I think that, we see Mitch Robinson was one of those guys who can put up that monster number. And he can do it with taking 4 shots like he did last time. He put up 37 fantasy points. I don't think I'm going to do it, but I'm just throwing it out there that it wouldn't surprise me if he had a good game if we had no Taj Gibson. If Taj Gibson plays, I'm not going to have interest in him. If Kemba plays, no interest in anybody else for the Knicks. If he doesn't play, I might consider a guy like Burks or Quickly, but I don't think I'm going to. So mostly it's going to be just Randall and Luka for me.
So first of all, with Houston, San Antonio, I wanted to thank you for this, for turning me on to this pick. He ended up not smashing, but he was doing really, really nicely. And then they just didn't give him closing run or whatever it is this Primo guy for San Antonio. He was good. I mean, he was, he didn't get a full allotment of minutes or anything like that, but he certainly produced when he was in there in his last game. He had 22 fantasy points at 3,600, which was okay. But in any case, San Antonio, it's this, first of all, I think that, as I alluded to earlier, I think Dejante Murray is a really, really good play. I think at 9,700, the only thing that's going to stop him from from having a really great game is the minutes that a blowout could prevent. I really like him a lot. And then the other San Antonios, again, now we're dealing with the San Antonio roulette wheel, right? We got Primo, Walker, what's his name? Forbes, Keita, Bates, Diop, Podol. I mean, all these guys actually rate to be good values. Not great values, but good values. So if you want to play this game, you could do it. You could play San Antonio Spurs roulette. Hope it doesn't turn into Russian roulette, right? But I do like Dejante Murray, and all those values look fine. You just got to get it right, which is not easy. And then unfortunately, the Houston side of this I kind of like too. I like Christian Wood. Again, we're talking about the center position, which is as usual, kind of a tough place to use one, but I like him. And then Kevin Porter Jr., Eric Gordon, Green, Tate. It feels really, really filthy to turn Houston, San Antonio into like a stack, but I'm probably going to get at least one lineup that looks like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't disagree with it. You could throw Eric Gordon into the mix.
That's what I said. I said that. Yeah.
Oh, did you? Sorry. Yeah, Gordon or Green. I wouldn't play both of those guys together. Probably. Okay. Porter would be second for me, and then Wood would be first. But all of them have a big enough ceiling. We do have Armani Brooks and Sengun, who might be back tonight. So that whether they play or not actually does matter quite a bit, because Christian Wood's minutes should be even more secure. Sengun will sometimes, and then you get Wood down in the 20s sometimes in minutes. It's happened a couple times this year. And then you've got Brooks just might take a few more minutes from Green or Gordon. I just don't know what they're doing with Gordon. There's a month till the trade deadline, and I feel like that show out game is if he gets hot ever, like you're going to see him stay out there longer. And like if he puts up 30 real life points, obviously he's going to score like 40 plus fantasy points. And that's going to happen in the next month before he's traded is my guess. it just feels like something we should speculate on like every day. Just always at least consider Eric Gordon when he's in this price tier. On the San Antonio side, I agree that Murray's pretty obviously the better play, like from just a logic standpoint than the other guys we mentioned, then the matchup is great. You've got no Derek White in the way. You've got all the other, schmoes who they've got there. And I personally, I like Murray a lot. I just think he's going to be really popular. So just keep that in mind. I think Lonnie Walker will be really popular. I like Lonnie Walker. I'm not going to do this Devontae Kakok thing.
Who?
He's 3,400. It is.
I don't even know who he is. Who is this?
He's played like 20, he put up 24 and 25 the last couple games. And he's really a backup center. But they were playing against smaller teams. I have to do a double check of see exactly how those games played, but it is kind of weird that he got so many minutes out of the blue kind of. He hadn't really played. He had played like as many minutes he played in the last game all season up until the last couple games. So he's projected to play 20 minutes. He might play like 10. I don't know. It just feels suspect to me, but he's going to project well, I think. Primo Walker. I would go Walker, then Primo, and then desperation Forbes. And then, but for the value, and then I'd actually probably have Bates Diop. Bates Diop is probably safer to get to 20 than Forbes is, but Forbes has a better chance maybe to get to 30. I don't know. It's pretty close. But I take Murray as my main play, and then Murray and Wood is a good place to start for me. That's where I'm at.
The other thing I would mention, I pulled up his thing before, is Kevin Porter Jr. I don't know what the contracts work and stuff like that, but this dude, he was one of the guys that had disciplinary issues, right? He walked out of practice, whatever the hell he did, walked out of the floor. And then in his last game, he got ejected for like a flagrant 2. Yeah, I'm not playing that guy. He might be traded. Who knows? Who knows what they do? I don't know if he's going to be that easy to trade, but he can put up 60 or 70. Like he's got that in ability. We've seen it before. But I've got a feeling that look at his last 3 games. Like 28 minutes, 26 minutes, 27 minutes. They've all been probably blowout-y, whatever.
Projection and blowouts are hard to measure.
Right, but maybe they're just kind of phasing out. I don't know.
Maybe 60 or 70 is even a stretch, but he definitely can get 50 plus. He's interesting. I don't think he's like a must play by any means. But I mean, I think that Christian Wood has a very similar situation and just might be feel a little safer because he's had a couple 40 fantasy point games. But honestly, Christian Wood hasn't been putting up the numbers we expected from him either. Utah, Cleveland. I'm struggling what to do with Whiteside here. I don't mind. First of all, I think it's a good defensive team that they're up against that plays big, which could give him a higher floor in minutes. Because we've seen him, play 24, and we've seen him play whatever 34 last time without Gobert, and there's obviously I'd rather him play 34. I like Whiteside. I don't know what I'm going to end up doing with him, is the honest to God truth. And that is pretty much this whole game for me. I don't really think anybody else is especially viable outside of Rajon Rondo, who I'm going to continue to speculate with like over and over and over again.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. Any play that I'm making from this game is going to be just really speculative. Like for example, I wouldn't mind, just because of ceiling, just taking a shot at Jared Allen from time to time at low ownership. And you could always play Evan Mobley, I think. So you could do that if you want, but they're certainly not priorities. And I think Utah, you could start listen, it's been disappointing. You could always play Mitchell if you feel like it. But nothing's going to be based on numbers or anything like that. I don't think the game is particularly stackable either. So, I mean, it's really not a game you want to target, especially with one or two lineups. If I like stumble into like a 5% owned Donovan Mitchell as a pivot off of what you call Dejante Murray, I might not be too upset about that. But I don't think any play from this game is really something you need.
Yeah, it's weird. Last week on the Saturday, he's the one who made me all the money. With Mitchell, I played. He was 9,200 or 9,600. He was like less than 2%. He's like 1.5% owned, and it was like a 5-game slate. He's not going to get played tonight, although his recent numbers might have some people on him. But I would have him rated pretty well behind Murray. But I think that there is definitely upside for him. The only guy we didn't mention is maybe the one who could end up being there's two. I can't do the Kevin Love thing on these giant slates because the minutes it just bothers me too much with the minutes. But certainly it wouldn't surprise me if he had 42 fantasy points. But the real one is Darius Garland at 8,100.
Okay.
My feelings about Utah is that the guy who's going to have the ball in his hands does tend to try to have to take over more. And Utah gives up individual ceiling games. Now, 8,100 is probably still a little bit like, I don't know. It's pretty fair. I'm open to it anyway. Garland, I'm openly open to it. I just don't think I'm going to get too heavily invested. It's mostly going to be Whiteside in this game for me. But I don't mind the Jared Allen idea or Mobley. I don't mind any of it. It's just there's a big slate, and I'm sort of preferring the other guys a little bit higher. That's it.
So Brooklyn, Chicago is really gross for me because you have, 1, 2, 3, like 6 of like the top like maybe 20 offensive players in basketball like playing in this game. Right. Maybe. And I think that because of that, you could probably not play any of them. This is the
first time I've ever seen a 10 p.m. Eastern game in Chicago. How is that happening? Is this game being played somewhere else? Am I missing something?
No, it's probably an ESPN.
Oh, yeah, but it's not just ESPN. I think it's the ESPN combined with the COVID delay that somehow they found a way to justify it. I don't know. It's very strange to see.
That is weird, right?
And it is Chicago on a back-to-back as well. It's bizarre. I mean,
is it so so Kyrie can make his plane or whatever it is? I don't know.
That's what I was wondering because I had seen messages last night on Twitter that Kyrie wasn't going to be able to play in Chicago, and then I read today though that he was. I just don't know what the hell is going on.
Well, I will say this: that none of those 3 guys. We'll start with Brooklyn. None of those 3 guys are going to be playable on straight projections, but they're all going to be low owned. And they all 3 of them have the possibility every day of throwing up something good. But it really just does depend on the other 2 not doing anything, or at least one of them not doing anything. It's just hard to play. We knew this at the beginning of when they traded for all these guys. It's gonna be tough when they're all there. So as in a way, it's scary to not play anything from this team. So like on the Chicago side, sure, I guess, you know what? Okay, I'll take a shot. DeRozan, and then was Levine not in? No, Levine's in.
He's in.
As
of now.
Yeah. Okay. So fine. I would take a shot with one of those and see. And Vooch too. And then there's Lonzo. I mean, like, there's so much. This is a pretty good offensive team. You know, there's
look at the projected score. It's a 234 total.
I know, but like someone's got to take from somebody else. You know, it's I don't know. I don't know who to play. I guess DeRozan is my favorite player of the game, I'm probably going to have to play something, but I just don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah, it's hard because we still have officially questionable Q tags. Although Kyrie did not go through the shoot around this morning, I believe, and Hardin did. If Kyrie is out, I would be very happy to play Hardin or Durant. Oddly enough, I kind of prefer Durant. I think there is a little narrative here. First of all, these are the best two teams in the East. You have another MVP candidate, and on the other side in DeRozan. Even though it's probably a little bit of a thinner, he's probably the fifth for MVP or fourth or something like that. But Durant, who's probably the current favorite or close to it, I think there's something here, and I think you're going to see a lot of minutes out of these guys. If it wasn't a back-to-back, I think Chicago, I would be like all over Chicago -2 here. I mean, Brooklyn they've looked terrible to me, like terrible. They can't beat good teams. They can only beat bad teams, and even the bad teams, they got beat up by the Spurs the other night. They had the big revenge game with everybody back against Milwaukee and all this and everything. And then they got smoked and just completely housed in that game. But with it being the second of a back-to-back for the Bulls, I'm giving Brooklyn a chance at least. Harden and Durant I'm telling you, I really think one of those guys are going to have a game. And if Kyrie plays, I will play some Kyrie. He's gonna, he played 40 minutes in his last game. Okay. They're not afraid to give him the run, but it does feel like they take away from each other. I just think that everybody else will think that way. The problem is when you measure them with the Lukas and the Embiids, it does feel hard with Luka has the narrative thing going for him too, a national televised game in New York, or not. And Dejante Murray has just got all the usage. So it does feel wrong, but I don't know if it is. I mean, you've got a very fair price on Lonzo. You've got a very fair price on DeRozan, and I think Vooch could absolutely destroy the interior here. So all of these guys are and then Levine is Levine. Maybe you use him on FanDuel though, but all of these guys could absolutely put up a monster game, and probably will. Probably two of the guys in this game will. It's really hard to know who to pick, and so what I would say is if I would prefer DeRozan if I had to pick my favorite Bull, and I probably would go Lonzo next on DraftKings. If I had to pick my favorite, I would go Durant, then Harden, then Kyrie, but I'm interested in all of them. And one thing I may do is if I have my chalky build and just mix two of these guys in, and you literally, they go 7X, it's very possible you could run away with all the money tonight. So I have the same feeling you do. I feel like there's something that should happen here, but it's really hard to know who's going to take away from who. That's where I'm at too. So.
All right. So if you really want to win all the money, okay.
I know what you're going to say too.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
I do.
Yeah, I know you do, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Okay.
So if you didn't like any or all of that, okay, you have LA at Sacramento. Now Sacramento is not what it used to be with Coors Field, but you have Coors Field traveling to Sacramento. So it's so it does probably to be a fast-paced game. So I'm going to start with Sacramento. I was very upset, not upset, but I thought I made it just a really, really good kind of low-owned play. I had De'Aaron Fox against the worst freaking defense in freaking basketball against Portland, getting a full 36 minutes doing nothing, like a couple of games ago. Missed every shot he took. He basically just stood on the side, and let Halliburton bring the ball up most of the time anyway. And then back-to-back, he had another one. So that's 2 straight duds in a row. It's going to be really scary given the game log, but I do like that. I do like Fox. And if I'm not going to play Fox, I'm going to play Halliburton. I think I really want to play one of these two in this matchup. The other thing about the Sacramento side is that is I want to ask you about Damion Mitchell. He's just because he's projecting at 6x. I would throw that out there to ask you, and then I would also throw it again just to spitball it. Alex Len is 4K, 25 minutes. That's not bad. So I don't know if I'm going to do it. And then on the Lakers side, so you're going to have LeBron who's just doing absolutely everything at 11,700. He's probable and all that stuff. And if you want to win the million, you'll play freaking Westbrook. So that's kind of what I want to do. And it'd probably be like Westbrook and Fox and just basically come in last place. I think that's what's going to end up happening. It might end up happening in the big one if you want to know the truth. And at the very least, I'm going to reserve the right to do that later. Like if I play LeBron, for example, or somebody from Brooklyn or whatever, and things aren't going the way I want, I definitely am in the mood to play some Westbrook.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that, and I actually so I think Westbrook scores 50 plus fantasy points. I think he's going to have a good game. Bad shooting, the blowout last time, all the things that happened against Memphis, whatever. He's really been awful this last stretch of time, but partly he's been trying to fit into a role more as they were sort of finding themselves a little bit when they had the 4-game winning streak, and they were winning. So he sort of took a little bit of that step back. I don't know what to do with it, man. I do think I'm going to play. It's also hard. Like Dejante Murray is the same price. Like
I know.
It's really, really weird. I think one of Westbrook or LeBron both of them are interesting. I have mild interest in both. Malik Monk went nuts against these guys last time. I don't know if I could pay 6,200 for him right yet. Although I think he actually has the shooting upside to warrant it. Like it's interesting because I think about it. Malik Monk is a very similar play to Buddy Hield, who just lit us up last time he played this team.
Yeah.
And Buddy Hield is not going to project well, but that's the guy who I think is really interesting. The Lakers, they don't guard the three. They don't rotate enough on defense. And, Buddy Hield put up 42 against these guys last time he played. He's 5,600 and 51 on FanDuel. I think he's interesting. I think all the Kings are. This is a great situation. I think I would prefer Halliburton to Fox, but I like both of them. I'm not going to play them together. One of those guys with Hield and potentially with Len. To play them with Mitchell feels really weird because you have all these guards, but the Mitchell thing is like, this guy has gone a month without scoring 20 fantasy points in a game and is projected to be a great play every day. Right. And nothing is benefiting, nothing extra came in. Terrence Davis is back in the mix. He's not going to play much, but like, it's just anything extra is just a takeaway from him. But I don't mind the idea of, I like playing some of the late value because if you do get some other scratches and stuff, you can always switch off of it. And then Mitchell could always still get there too. Same thing with Alex Len. So I think both of those guys are extremely viable. And by the way, Len, was the backup center last time they played because Damian Jones started. And he played well off the bench. He put up 20 fantasy points in 18 minutes. If you give him 25 minutes against the Lakers who are going to start LeBron at center, you might see Alex Len with like 18 in the first quarter. Fantasy points, not like points.
And then end up with 22.
Then end up with like 26. Yeah, exactly. Something like that. Look, they could do something weird and start Metu. It's hard to know, but if you leave 100, if you play Len, try to leave 100 on the table and try to be in your utility or something, because I do think that you'd want to be able to switch to Metu in case he started, which I don't think he would, but like, it's just possible. I'm just saying that, it worked. Look, last time, I don't know, the Lakers won the last game and maybe this time they'll change. I don't know. I do think one of LeBron or Westbrook, and then I want to run it back with, and probably Halliburton and Hield being my favorites. But I don't think you have to do any of this, but it is going to be unowned, except for Fox, who will have some ownership. I guess Fox and Halliburton and Len and Mitchell will project to have ownership early in the day. I'm not sure if that really is going to stand by the time we get through the slate, because I want to go through real quickly just some updated projections on Orlando to close this out before we go to the favorites.
Yeah, I didn't do anything yet with it.
The other guy I didn't talk about was, and it does feel thin a little bit with him because the minutes are in flux, but he can put up a ton of fantasy minutes in no time. It just feels wrong that it's the first game of the slate, and that's Mo Wagner. Like
Ooh.
he's 3,500. He's going to actually have a chance to put up a game here, but Robin Lopez is the main one. Okiki behind him. But I did want to mention the Mo Wagner thing because it is another, like yet another guy we can use for value as just a, potential. And by the way, that one night where he was the mega chalk because they didn't even have Lopez that night. It ended up being Admiral Schofield who got the minutes, not him.
The Admiral, that's right.
Right. Remember, we kind of win the General, so we play the Admiral.
The Admiral.
But so just keep that in mind. But think about like I think Lopez is a better play than Len, but is he that much better of a play than Len? To where Len, who starts 3 hours later and we don't know what's going to happen, and just adds to some shiftability, especially if you're playing other Lakers and Kings. Boy, I kind of like the idea of doing that in case anything happens in that, or it could happen at 8 Eastern, and you might be able to add something in San Antonio or Houston. You don't know. Right. So Len is not as good of a play to me as Lopez on its face, but Len might be a better play because of the switchability, because he plays later, and that's a big decision I'm going to run into today. So yeah. Anyway, I just want to throw that out there.
Yep.
By the way, Robin Lopez, I think, is being underprojected. Now, I know he hasn't played much, but like when he started this year and the other guys were both out, I mean, look, he hasn't played. It's been since the 28th of December that he played even. Even that game was with at least Carter, I believe, was back, or Bomb. I can't remember which one. But the other 3 previous games that he started, he played 33 minutes, 38 minutes, and 32 minutes. He put up 32, 39, and 37. Now, obviously, for 4K, that's something we want. Okay.
Right.
But Len also just put up 39 and 30. So, you know what? Maybe I will make a Lopez Len lineup and get a little weird with the rest of my plays. I actually kind of like that idea. I will read real quickly my favorite. I think that the priorities are Okongwu and Dinwiddie. Like those should be the staples in your lineups. I think Cole Anthony fits that criteria. I think Dejante Murray would be, if I was playing cash, he would be the guy I would look to for a cash game type of play. But again, tournament winning upside for sure. I like the Luka idea. The more I think about this, man, look, I'm telling you, we've talked about this so many times. If you really think narratives don't matter in basketball, you get Luka in New York once a year, and you've got ESPN there and all the cameras on, and no Porzingis. I mean, it just feels like, God, if he goes out and scores 70, I'm going to feel kind of silly not to have him in something. I think that I still do like the Tatum or Brown thing. Oh, Embiid is my other priority guy, so it's going to be hard to fit all the money in. But I do think Embiid, Dinwiddie, and Anthony would be my first guys to look at, and then I would sort of mix these. I do like Wood, I like Randall, I like Whiteside. One or two of Fox, Halliburton, Hield, Barnes, and Mitchell, and Len. There's 6 guys for Sacramento who are in play, so I'm going to try and get some exposure to that, and I can always pivot later on to San Antonio, like if we don't have any news by then. Rajon Rondo just got downgraded to questionable, so there goes my Rondo love. I don't think it's going to do a whole bunch, except for maybe Cedi Osman. We'll talk about that at 6. One of Walker, Primo, or Forbes. But again, Okongwu, Anthony, Dinwiddie, Embiid, Murray, Luka. I know some of those are spend ups, and then you have a whole bunch of the cheapos who we're going to figure out between whether it's Len or Lopez, Okiki. Yeah, I feel that's those are my main guys today. And then I still think a 1v1 for the Bulls Nets could take it down, but really hard to know who that 1v1 is, and there are so many spend ups in good spots tonight.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see to have Kristaps healthy coming back to Madison Square Garden. That would have been a fun one.
That would be fun. Marnie Brooks is in. Okay. Cheech, you gonna be around at 6?
I will.
All right, so we will be with you guys at 6. I'll get my stuff loaded. I'm a little later today than usual. We're going to do a golf video, and let's make some money tonight, guys. Let's keep the stuff going, and keep bugging me in Discord, and I'll try to answer any late questions I can. Good luck, everybody.